They said it was a bear, but bears don't choose who they leave alive. Out of 3 people, it only let me live. Still don't know why I survived. The doctors say it was luck. That's the word they use. Luck. They say I have PTSD, and maybe they're right. They've put me on medication that makes everything feel distant, like I'm watching my own life from somewhere far away. But none of that really matters, because the truth is, they don't understand what I saw, and I don't think anyone who hasn't been there ever could. My name's Ethan. I'm 22 years old, and I'm the only one who made it out of that place alive. It started like something completely normal. There was a post in one of our college group chats, a volunteer opportunity. Some organization was looking for people to help restore an old rural chapel. They said it was historically significant, but in bad condition, and they needed help fast. There was a photo attached. I remember staring at it longer than I needed to. It was a small wooden church, somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. The white paint had almost completely peeled away, exposing grey, weathered boards underneath. The roof sagged slightly, like it had been left to carry too much weight for too long. There was a narrow bell tower leaning just a little off-centre, and the front porch looked like it might collapse if someone stood on it too long. It didn't look preserved. It looked abandoned, forgotten. And for me, that was enough. I study architecture and places like that. They pull you in. There's something about buildings that have been left behind. You start wondering what they used to be, who built them, why people stopped coming back. So I sent the post to my friend Jake. "Road trip," I wrote. Jake said yes, almost immediately. He didn't need convincing. He never did. We'd been friends since our first year. He was the kind of guy who turned everything into a joke, the kind of person who made bad decisions feel like good ideas. He suggested we bring Marcus and Lily. Marcus was the opposite of Jake in some ways. Quiet, but intense. He spent most of his time at the gym and treated every problem like something that could be solved physically, if you just pushed hard enough. Lily? Lily was different from all of us. She studied anthropology, folklore mostly. She paid attention to things the rest of us ignored, always observing, always listening. She carried a small recorder with her everywhere, just in case she heard something worth remembering. There were 4 of us, and at the time it felt like just another trip. The drive took about 8 hours. At first, everything was normal. Highways, gas stations, music playing too loud. Then the roads got smaller, then rougher. Eventually, they barely felt like roads at all. At some point, the GPS stopped making sense. It showed us moving through empty land, like we had left the map behind completely. Lily noticed it first. "Are you sure this is right?" she asked. We had already passed the same broken roadside cross more than once. Marcus didn't even look up. "Coordinates are right," he said. "We're close." We reached the place just before sunset. I don't even know if town is the right word for it. There were maybe a dozen houses. Some looked abandoned, others just empty. Like people still owned them, but didn't live there anymore. There were no cars, no lights, no movement. The silence was the first thing I noticed. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that makes you aware of how quiet everything is. And then we saw the church. It stood in the center of everything, tall, dark, and slightly leaning. It didn't look like a place people used anymore. It looked like something that had been left alone for a long time, on purpose. Jake let out a low whistle. "Okay," he said, half smiling. "That's a little creepy." We laughed it off. Of course we did. We found one house with a light on and decided to knock. An old man opened the door. He didn't ask who we were, didn't greet us. He just looked at us for a long time. Then he said, very quietly, "You should leave." I tried to explain why we were there, but he didn't let me finish. He just repeated it. Leave. Lily stepped forward and told him we had permission, that we were volunteers, that we were there to help. He looked at her differently than he looked at the rest of us. Longer, like he was trying to decide whether to say something more. "This place isn't for you," he said, finally. Then, after a pause, he added, "It's not for the living." And then he closed the door. We stood there for a second, unsure how to react. Marcus shrugged it off. Jake made a joke about small-town paranoia, and just like that, we moved on. We went straight to the church. Up close, it looked even worse than in the photo. The wood was splitting. The paint was gone. The doors had been boarded shut, but the boards were old and rotting. It didn't take much effort to get inside. The smell hit us immediately. Damp earth, rotting wood, and something else, something faint but unmistakable. Old incense, like it had soaked into the walls and never really left. Underneath it, there was another smell. Sweet, but wrong. Lily noticed it too. She didn't say much, but I could tell something about the place was bothering her. Inside, the church was in ruins. The pews were broken. The walls were blackened, like something had burned there a long time ago. Parts of the floor had collapsed, revealing a dark space underneath. Marcus assumed it was a basement. Lily wasn't so sure. "Listen," she said. We did, and that's when we heard it. A faint sound. Not dripping. Not quite. Something like tapping. At the time, it didn't seem like much. Just another strange detail. We decided to stay the night. That was the decision that changed everything. We didn't think much of the sound at first. That's the thing about moments like that. They never feel important when they're happening. It was just another detail, another oddity in a place that already felt a little off. We didn't want to set up tents outside. The ground around the church was uneven and the air had started to cool down fast. Inside, at least, we had some kind of shelter. Walls, a roof, even if they weren't in great shape. We gathered some broken wood from the floor and lit a small fire in the center of the room. Nothing big, just enough to keep the cold away. For a while, things felt almost normal again. Jake was joking around. Marcus was talking about how easy the repair work would be, and I was already mentally planning how we'd document everything for school. Only Lily stayed quiet. She sat a little apart from the rest of us, knees pulled close, staring at the floor where the boards had collapsed. At some point, she spoke. "There's a burial ground nearby," she said. Marcus didn't even look up. "Yeah? So? It's not a regular cemetery," she continued. "No markers, no names. Places like that, they weren't used for everyone." Jake smirked. "Let me guess. Ghost stories?" Lily didn't react. "They buried people there who didn't belong anywhere else," she said. "Outcasts. People they didn't want remembered." Marcus laughed. "Well, good thing they're not around anymore." Nobody really argued with him. We just let the conversation die. At some point, one by one, we fell asleep. I don't know how long I was out, but I remember exactly what woke me up. That same sound. Only this time it was clearer. Slow. Repetitive. Like something lightly tapping from below. I opened my eyes. The fire had burned down to almost nothing. The room was darker now, shadows stretching across the walls in uneven shapes. Jake was asleep next to me. Marcus was in the corner, snoring quietly. Lily wasn't there. I sat up, instantly awake. "Lily?" I called. No answer. Then I heard it again. That sound, coming from the floor. I grabbed my flashlight and stood up. For a second, I just stood there, listening, trying to convince myself it was something normal. Water, wood shifting, anything. But the sound had a pattern, too precise, too intentional. I walked toward one of the broken sections of the floor. The beam underneath creaked slightly under my weight. I leaned forward and shined the light down. The beam cut through the darkness. And then I saw her. Lily was down there, kneeling on the ground. She wasn't moving, just staring at something in front of her. "Lily?" I said, louder this time. "What are you doing?" She didn't respond right away. Then slowly, she turned her head. Her eyes were open, but there was something wrong with the way she looked at me, like she wasn't fully there. "There's something here," she said quietly. I climbed down. The ground was damp, uneven, the air colder than upstairs. Marcus woke up from the noise and followed me down a second later. Jake stayed up top, still half asleep. "What is it?" Marcus asked. Lily pointed. There was a wooden shelf built into the wall. Old, almost part of the structure itself. And on it, there was a doll. At first glance, it looked simple. Handmade. Cloth, maybe. Stuffed with something that had long since broken down. But the longer I looked at it, the less normal it felt. It was bigger than it should have been. Not a child's toy. Something else. And it didn't have a face. Just smooth fabric where features should have been. Lily reached out slowly. Her hand was shaking. "Don't," I said. I don't know why. I just said it. But she didn't stop. The moment she touched it, the outer layer of fabric shifted, fell apart in places. And underneath, there was wood, a small carved figure, rough, primitive, and covered in markings, symbols, scratched deep into the surface. Lily inhaled sharply. "That's not decoration," she whispered. Marcus stepped closer. "What is it then?" She hesitated, then said, "It's a seal." The word hung there. Marcus laughed. "Yeah, okay." He picked it up without hesitation. "Just some old folk art," he said. "Probably worth something." "Marcus, put it back," Lily said immediately. There was panic in her voice now, real panic. He ignored her, turned it over in his hands. "What are you scared of?" he said. "It's just a piece of wood." He shoved it into his backpack. And just like that, he broke whatever had been holding that place together. We didn't know it yet, but that was the moment everything changed. We climbed back up. Nobody was laughing anymore. Jake looked at us. "What was that about?" "Nothing," Marcus said. "Just junk." But Lily didn't say anything. She just sat down, staring at the floor again. That night, none of us slept the same way. And the next morning, everything got worse. I don't think any of us slept properly after that. Even if we closed our eyes, it wasn't real sleep. It was the kind where you're still aware of everything around you, every sound, every shift in the air. Morning didn't feel like relief. It felt like something unfinished. Marcus was the first one up. He stretched, walked outside, and after a few seconds we heard him say, "You've got to be kidding me." The truck wouldn't start. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. Old vehicle, cold night. It happens. Marcus popped the hood and started messing with the battery like he knew what he was doing. Jake stood nearby, half joking, half annoyed. "How long?" I asked. Marcus didn't look at me. "Couple hours," he said. "Maybe." Lily didn't come outside right away. When she finally did, she looked off, paler than usual, quiet, even for her. "Did you sleep at all?" I asked. She shook her head, then glanced toward the church. "We shouldn't have touched that," she said. Nobody answered. We split up for a bit. Marcus stayed with the truck. Jake wandered off with his camera. Lily sat near the church steps, not really doing anything. I went back to the house with the old man. I don't know why. Maybe I just wanted answers. He was outside this time, standing on the porch, smoking, like he'd been waiting. "The truck won't start," I said. He nodded. "It won't," he replied. There was no surprise in his voice, no curiosity. "What do you mean?" I asked. He looked at me for a long moment, then said, "You woke it up." I didn't answer right away, because part of me already knew what he was going to say next. "There's something buried under that place," he continued. "Older than the church." "What do you mean, under?" I asked. "The church isn't the beginning," he said. "It's what they built to cover it." He pointed vaguely toward the center of the village. Before that, there was something else there. He paused, like he was choosing his words carefully. "A place people didn't come back from." I felt a chill run through me. "And the doll?" I asked. His expression changed immediately. You found it? It wasn't a question. I didn't say anything, but I didn't need to. His shoulders dropped slightly, like something had just been confirmed. That thing wasn't meant to be touched, he said quietly. What is it? I asked. He shook his head. Not what, he said. Who? The word hung there longer than anything else he'd said. They couldn't get rid of it, he continued. So they sealed it. In the doll? He nodded. And now? I asked. He looked at me. Really looked at me. Now, it knows you're here. I don't remember walking back to the church, but I remember the feeling that something had shifted. Jake came back a little later. He seemed uneasy, didn't joke like usual. You hear anything weird out there? He asked. What kind of weird? Marcus replied. Jake hesitated. Like, laughing, he said. Nobody answered, because we had all heard something the night before, and none of us wanted to say it out loud. The rest of the day dragged. Marcus couldn't fix the truck. No signal, no way to call anyone. By late afternoon, we all understood the same thing. We weren't leaving that day, and none of us wanted to stay inside the church again. Jake was the first to say it. I'm not sleeping in there tonight. Marcus nodded. Yeah, me neither. Lily looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. We gathered our things and moved away from the building. Set up outside, far enough to see everything around us. Open space, clear view. It felt safer, at least in theory. We took turns staying awake, or at least that was the plan. Lily volunteered first. That turned out to be a mistake, because at some point, she fell asleep. And when everything finally happened, none of us were ready. I don't know what time it was when it started. Everything was silent. So quiet it felt like the world itself was holding its breath. And then, Marcus screamed. Not just loud, wrong. Like something had reached inside him and pulled that sound out. I sat up instantly, disoriented, my heart already racing before I even understood why. Marcus wasn't where he should have been. He was being dragged. At first, my brain tried to make sense of it. Animal. It had to be. But then, I saw it. It wasn't moving like anything I'd ever seen before. Too tall. That's what hit me first. It didn't just stand upright. It unfolded into height, like its body had more joints than it should. Its arms were too long, not just proportionally. They bent in places they shouldn't, and the way it moved, it didn't step. It shifted, like it skipped parts of motion your brain expects to see. Marcus was kicking, trying to grab onto anything, but the ground beneath him just gave way to dirt and grass. "Help me!" he yelled, but it came out broken, like he already knew it was too late. The thing stopped, slowly turned its head. And I realized its face didn't look finished. The mouth stretched too wide across it, like something had tried to force a human shape onto something that didn't understand it. When it opened, it didn't look like it was meant for speaking or eating, just opening. And that sound came out again. That same sound, close now. It wasn't laughter, but it was trying to be. Marcus started screaming again, louder this time, until suddenly he didn't. Just silence. Not gradual, instant, like someone had cut the sound out of the world. Lily screamed next. High, sharp, uncontrolled. She couldn't move. The thing turned toward her. And for a second, it just stood there, watching, not rushing, not reacting, choosing. Jake snapped out of it first. He ran. No hesitation. Just turned and ran into the dark. For a moment, I thought he might actually make it. Then he stumbled, and that was enough. The thing didn't chase him the way anything normal would. It was just suddenly there, like distance didn't apply to it the same way. Jake didn't even have time to scream properly. Just one short, cut-off sound. And then nothing. Lily's voice broke into something I'd never heard from a person before. The thing moved toward her slowly. Too slowly. Like it was enjoying the space between them. She tried to crawl backward, her hands slipping in the dirt. "Please," she said, and then it reached her. I don't remember exactly what happened next. Not clearly. Just the way her voice stopped and the silence that followed. That silence was the worst part, because that's when it looked at me, and I knew. It had known I was there the whole time. It just hadn't chosen me yet. That's what broke me. I ran, not thinking, not deciding, just running. Branches hit my face. Something tore my sleeve. I fell, got up, kept going. At one point, I looked back. I don't know why. It was standing at the edge of the clearing, watching me, not chasing, just watching. Like it didn't need to. Like it already knew how this ended. Then, it tilted its head slightly, and I heard it again. That sound, closer now. So I ran harder than I ever had in my life. I don't remember how long I ran. Minutes, hours, it all felt the same. At some point, my body just gave out. I collapsed in the dirt, lungs burning, vision going dark at the edges, and I remember thinking, this is where it catches me. But it didn't. When I opened my eyes again, it was morning. Sunlight was breaking through the trees. Birds were chirping. Wind moving through the branches. Everything looked normal. Too normal. For a while, I just lay there, listening, waiting. Nothing came. No footsteps, no sound. Like it had never been there at all. I made it back to the road somehow. I don't remember how. I don't remember the faces of the people who picked me up, or what I told them. I just remember the look they gave me. That quiet, careful look people use when they think you've already lost it. They said it was a bear. That's what ended up in the report. Wild animal attack. Clean. Simple. Explainable. Except, bears don't move like that. They don't stop and watch. They don't choose. And they don't leave one person behind. I tried to move on. I really did. I stopped going out at night. I keep my doors locked. Windows too. Every single one. I even moved. Different apartment. Different city. Didn't matter. Because about a week after I got out, something happened. I was going through my things, cleaning out my bag, and at the very bottom, under everything, I found something I don't remember packing. A small piece of wood, rough, carved, covered in markings. I dropped it immediately, like it burned. I told myself it was nothing, that I picked it up without realizing, that it meant nothing. I threw it away that same night, far from my place. But that's when the sounds started. At first, barely noticeable. Just something soft, late at night, like tapping, slow, even, not coming from outside, from somewhere inside the apartment. At first I thought it was pipes, old building, makes sense, but then it started moving, not physically, the sound. Some nights it comes from the walls, some nights from the floor. And once, I heard it right next to my bed, close enough that I stopped breathing, just listening, waiting. And then I heard something else, not loud, not clear, but close. So close it felt like it was right next to my ear, a sound trying to form into something human, almost a whisper, almost a laugh. And that's when I understood something. It didn't lose me, it let me go. And sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I get this feeling, like I'm being watched, not from outside, not from the hallway, but from somewhere much closer, somewhere I can't see. And every now and then, I think about that doll, and what Lily said, that it wasn't protection, it was a seal, and we broke it. So, yeah, lock your doors. It won't stop anything, but it might make you feel better, for a little while.